Mate Rimac sat in front of a camera, spoke for 10 uninterrupted minutes about safety and engineering costs, and clearly believed that would settle things. What he didn't account for was Matt Armstrong having something to say back, and FXAlexG having considerably more. The automotive world has been locked onto this story for weeks, and the reason isn't complicated. A wrecked Bugatti Chiron sitting in Miami, a rebuilder who won't walk away from a challenge, and a CEO who would apparently rather see the car rot in pieces than let it leave his company's sphere of control. But what Matt and FXG each put on record in their responses doesn't just push back on Rimac's position. It exposes what his carefully produced video deliberately left out, and those omissions are where the real story lives. Start with Matt Armstrong's reply, because the way he handled it reveals everything about who he is inside the automotive repair space. Matt didn't post a reaction video. He didn't flood social media with accusations or fire back through the press. He walked directly into Rimac's comment section and left a response that was measured, specific, and far harder to argue against than anything aggressive would have been. The opening lines credited Bugatti entirely: the engineering quality, the build standard, the reliability that makes a Chiron worth what it costs. Gratitude first, facts second, and that sequencing mattered. What followed was the part nobody could spin away. Matt wrote plainly that without Bugatti's involvement, the car would never go back to factory specification, and that without parts or any form of support from the manufacturer, his only available path was to make it work as safely as possible using whatever alternatives he could source. That statement stripped the core of Rimac's argument down to nothing, because Matt wasn't claiming to replicate a factory-built hypercar in a Miami workshop. He was saying he'd do the best job any independent technician could do on a salvage-titled vehicle: keep it road legal and keep it safe. The airbag question came up as a specific example. Matt could have stripped the Chiron down to a track-only build with no airbags at all, no legal obligation to install them, and no one watching closely enough to care. That was the easier route. He chose not to take it. The car is going back on the road, and the road version gets all the safety systems the road version is supposed to have. His closing line was the one that resonated most with the automotive community. Matt said he understood why Bugatti as a corporation wouldn't stand behind an independent rebuild, that he didn't expect them to, but that the rebuild was happening regardless, and if they ever changed their mind, they knew who to call. That single comment pulled over 10,400 likes, which tells you where the audience stands. But it wasn't just the numbers that landed, it was the tone. No anger, no grievance performance. A man doing his job while leaving a door open that the other side had already closed from the inside. FXAlexG's video response went deeper, and what he brought into the open completely reframes how Bugatti's refusal has been packaged and presented to the public. The first move FXG made was to agree with part of Rimac's position. When the Chiron crashed, every single safety system in that car performed exactly the way Bugatti's engineers designed it to perform. The airbags deployed on impact, the seatbelt locked at the right moment, and FXG is alive today because those engineering decisions worked. He credited the people who built those systems directly, said clearly that road safety matters and that those precautions proved it. Agreement on the principle, fully stated and on the record. Then came the dismantling of the application. Here's where the argument lands with the most force. Bugatti refusing to sell parts doesn't stop the rebuild. It only removes Bugatti from the process while the process keeps moving. FXG stated it without hesitation. If the manufacturer won't supply components, the team finds a third-party source, a fourth-party source, a fifth-party source, as many layers as it takes, until the car is whole again. And the logic that follows from that is the part Rimac's safety argument can't survive. If the genuine concern is that an independent rebuild might be done incorrectly, the safer outcome would be to supply parts to a rebuild you can monitor than to force a rebuild using substitutes you have no visibility into at all. Withholding parts doesn't protect the car or the driver who will eventually sit in it. It just ensures that Bugatti has no role in whatever happens next. The salvage title is the detail that cuts through the foundation of Rimac's position. When Bugatti sent a technician to Miami to inspect the crashed Chiron for the insurance assessment, that technician had a binary choice: certificate of destruction, which ends the rebuild conversation permanently by law, or salvage title, which legally establishes that the car can be repaired and returned to road use. Bugatti's own technician, who physically examined the damage and understood exactly what the car had been through, chose the second option. That decision came from inside the company. So when Rimac presents the rebuild as something reckless and dangerous, he's walking back the judgment his own team made in that Miami garage, and the contradiction is hard to ignore. The salvage title matters, but the phone call matters more. FXG described a conversation with Rimac in which specific commitments were made out loud. According to FXG, Rimac told him directly, "You have my word that we'll figure out how to get parts to you, so the rebuild can happen safely." Rimac also said he'd arrange for a Bugatti technician to be present in person during the work to make sure everything was being done properly. Rimac knew from that conversation that Matt Armstrong would be the one doing the rebuild. None of this was hidden. The plan was transparent, the parties were identified, and the cooperation had apparently been agreed to. Then, within 24 hours of that call, Bugatti's position inverted completely. Parts refusal. No technician. No explanation offered to FXG for why the promises made the day before had suddenly disappeared. That sequence of events is what FXG's video puts into the public record, and it's the part Rimac's 10-minute presentation left completely unaddressed. When a CEO releases a polished explanation of his company's safety-based stance while omitting the phone call in which he personally gave his word that the company would cooperate, that's not an incomplete story. It's a constructed one. FXG made his position plain. He takes his words seriously, and the evidence he presented raises a direct question about whether Rimac does the same. The airbag concern came up specifically in Rimac's video as a technical safety argument. His position was that the airbag systems in the Chiron are calibrated and tuned to that specific vehicle, meaning components from other cars can't simply be substituted without compromising how the system functions under crash conditions. FXG's answer to that was not theoretical. It was a parts number. The airbag modules in the Chiron carry identification numbers that correspond to components used in the Audi A3 and the DBX11, both vehicles produced under the Volkswagen Group umbrella. That means those modules can be sourced from suppliers entirely outside of Bugatti at a significantly lower cost. If the components are genuinely interchangeable across multiple production vehicles built by the same manufacturing group, the claim that they're uniquely calibrated to the Chiron specifically doesn't hold the way it was presented. The 3D printing comment that circulated earlier in the story also got addressed directly. FXG acknowledged it for what it was, a troll comment made by a 25-year-old on the internet, not a technical proposal or an engineering plan. The problem was it gave Rimac an opening to frame the entire rebuild as some kind of amateur experiment, and that framing doesn't survive contact with Matt Armstrong's actual background. FXG described him as a skilled technician with experience across racing cars and nearly every category of vehicle that exists in the automotive world. The Bugatti is his first, and that single gap in his resume is being filled one sourced part at a time. Right now, the car is still in pieces. Headlights are coming from aftermarket manufacturers. The aluminum structure is being rebuilt by metalworking specialists. Cooling systems are being fabricated by custom radiator builders, and airbag modules are being sourced from Volkswagen Group suppliers rather than from Bugatti itself. The rebuild is moving forward exactly the way FXG said it would from the beginning, with or without the manufacturer's blessing. Matt Armstrong knows what the finished car will and won't be. It won't have a factory certification. It won't carry Bugatti's endorsement. But independent doesn't mean unsafe, and the automotive repair community watching this story unfold understands that distinction clearly, even if Bugatti's public position refuses to acknowledge it. What's actually playing out here runs deeper than one wrecked hypercar sitting in a Miami workshop. Independent repair rights, manufacturer parts supply policies, and the question of whether a luxury vehicle owner can choose to rebuild their own salvage-titled car. These are conversations running through the entire automotive industry right now, and this Chiron has put every one of them into a single frame. $2 million worth of crashed engineering, a rebuilder who won't stop, an owner betting everything on the outcome, and a CEO whose own technician already ruled the car worth fixing. The build is still moving, the cameras are still rolling, and the next phase of this is going to tell us whether independent hypercar repair can hold its ground against a manufacturer that would rather it didn't exist at all.